Welcome to Nordic Love Stories. Before tonight's journey begins, tell us where you're watching from, and if you love unforgettable Western mysteries filled with courage, kindness, and hope, don't forget to subscribe. No one in Black Hollow would go near the abandoned telegraph office after sunset. People claimed the last operator had fled in terror after hearing messages from someone who should have been dead. When a homeless 25-year-old woman spent her final $3 to buy the forgotten building, the entire town laughed. 3 weeks later, those same people stood outside her door, begging to know what she had found inside. The autumn wind carried dust across the empty streets as Evelyn Harper tightened her worn coat around her shoulders. She owned nothing except a small wooden trunk, a faded family Bible, and a tiny carved wooden horse her late father had made before a mining accident stole his life. Her mother had passed away years later, leaving Evelyn to survive by working as a cook, cleaner, and seamstress wherever honest work could be found. For nearly 6 years she had served at Miller's boarding house, earning little more than a warm bed and simple meals. The owner's gentle wife had treated Evelyn like family, teaching her how to keep accounts, repair furniture, care for gardens, and remain calm during hardship. "A strong heart speaks softly," Mrs. Miller often said. "The loudest people rarely carry the heaviest burdens." Those words stayed with Evelyn long after the kind woman died from pneumonia. Everything changed when Mr. Miller remarried. His new wife wanted fresh servants from the city and saw Evelyn as nothing more than a reminder of the past. Without anger or apology, she dismissed the young woman with $5 for 6 years of faithful service. After paying her final boarding expenses, Evelyn counted the coins in her hand. $3 remained. She walked through Black Hollow with nowhere to sleep and no family waiting for her. That afternoon, the town gathered for its monthly property auction, where abandoned buildings with unpaid taxes were sold to the highest bidder. Blacksmith shops, broken wagons, and empty storage sheds found buyers one after another. Then the auctioneer cleared his throat. "Last property," he announced, "the abandoned telegraph office beside the railway. Taxes owed $3. Silence spread through the crowd. Old ranchers lowered their eyes. Shopkeepers whispered to one another. Everyone remembered Samuel Reed, the telegraph operator who had vanished almost a year earlier without leaving a single farewell. Some believed he stole company money. Others swore strange clicking sounds continued inside the empty office every stormy night. No one wanted the cursed place. The auctioneer waited. $3. Still nobody answered. Evelyn looked down at the last coins she owned. She could spend them on food that would last 2 days, or on a roof that might last forever. Before fear could stop her, she lifted her hand. $3, she said quietly. Gasps rolled across the square. The hammer struck once. Sold. As the rusty key landed in her palm, an elderly station porter stared at her with pale, frightened eyes and whispered only one sentence before turning away. "If the wire starts talking after midnight, don't answer it." Evelyn stood alone outside the abandoned telegraph office as the last rays of sunlight disappeared beyond the prairie. The townspeople hurried home without looking back, leaving her surrounded by silence so complete that even the wind seemed afraid to stay. She pushed the rusty key into the lock, and after several stubborn turns, the old door slowly creaked open. Dust floated through the fading light like forgotten memories. The room smelled of aged wood, smoke, and rusted metal. An overturned chair rested beside a heavy oak desk where the telegraph machine sat beneath a thick blanket of dust. Spiderwebs stretched from wall to wall, while faded message forms covered the floor. The place looked abandoned, yet strangely untouched, as though someone had walked out only moments earlier. Evelyn carried her small trunk inside, closed the door behind her, and whispered to herself, "This is home now." She spent the remaining daylight sweeping dirt from the floor, repairing a broken shelf, and opening the cracked windows to let fresh air inside. Behind the building, she discovered an old hand pump that still produced clean water after several determined pulls. Hope quietly replaced exhaustion. As darkness settled across Black Hollow, she gathered fallen branches, lit a small fire inside the iron stove, and cooked the last piece of bread she carried in her bag. While eating, she noticed a faded photograph hanging crookedly beside the operator's desk. It showed Samuel Reed standing beside another young man wearing a railway engineer's uniform. On the back, someone had written, "Truth always finds its road." The words lingered in her mind. Near midnight, just as the fire burned low, a sharp metallic click echoed through the room. Evelyn froze. Another click followed. Then another. Slow, steady, almost like someone tapping a careful rhythm. The old telegraph key on the desk had not moved, yet the sound continued. Holding the lantern tightly, she searched every corner until she discovered a thin wire disappearing behind a loose, wooden panel near the floor. Kneeling carefully, she removed the panel and found a second hidden telegraph line running beneath the building, completely separate from the official railway wire. Before she could inspect it further, footsteps crunched outside. Someone stopped on the porch. 3 slow knocks echoed against the door. Evelyn remained silent. The visitor knocked again before speaking in a calm, masculine voice. "Miss, I know you're inside. Please don't be afraid. My name is Daniel Carter." She hesitated before opening the door a few inches. Standing beneath the moonlight was a tall ranch hand carrying a basket covered with cloth. His weathered hat shaded kind blue eyes that showed more concern than curiosity. "The station porter told me someone finally bought this place," he said gently. "I figured anyone brave enough to sleep here might not have supper." He held out the basket. Inside were fresh biscuits, dried beef, apples, and a small jar of honey. Evelyn looked at the unexpected gift with surprise. "You don't even know me," she said softly. Daniel smiled. "Kindness doesn't need introductions." His quiet words reminded her of Mrs. Miller. For the first time in many weeks, she smiled back. They spoke only a few minutes before he wished her a peaceful night and walked toward his ranch beneath the starlit sky. After he disappeared, Evelyn closed the door, but her attention immediately returned to the mysterious clicking. This time it came faster. Curious, she connected the hidden wire to the dusty sounder on the desk, exactly as she had once seen a railway operator do years before. The machine suddenly came alive, tapping a clear, repeating message. She carefully copied every signal onto an old sheet of paper. When the final click faded, she translated the code using a worn Morse chart tucked inside the desk drawer. Her hands began to tremble as the words slowly appeared before her eyes. "They never found the ledger. Trust no one wearing the silver railroad badge." Evelyn stared at the decoded message until the lantern flame trembled in the silence. "They never found the ledger. Trust no one wearing the silver railroad badge." Her heartbeat echoed through the empty office. Someone had been using the hidden telegraph line long after Samuel Reed disappeared. Before sunrise, she carefully folded the paper, hid it beneath a loose floorboard, and acted as though nothing unusual had happened. By morning, Black Hollow looked peaceful again, but Evelyn noticed something she had missed before. A well-dressed railroad inspector wearing a polished silver badge paused across the street, watching the telegraph office for several long seconds before riding away. She remembered the warning and kept her discovery secret. Later that afternoon, Daniel Carter returned with lumber to help repair the broken porch. Evelyn insisted she would repay him through honest work someday, but Daniel only smiled. "Neighbors help neighbors," he said, as they worked side by side beneath the warm autumn sun. For the first time since losing everything, Evelyn felt she was no longer completely alone. That evening, while replacing loose floorboards beneath the operator's desk, her hammer struck hollow wood. She carefully lifted another hidden panel and discovered a narrow compartment containing a weathered leather journal wrapped in oilcloth. Unlike ordinary account books, every page contained names, dates, property maps, and coded telegram copies, proving that wealthy businessmen had secretly purchased valuable ranch land before public surveys were announced. Samuel Reed had recorded every dishonest transaction, planning to expose the corruption before he vanished. Tucked inside the final page was one handwritten note. "If this journal is found, deliver it only to Judge Benjamin Hale. He alone refused their bribes." Evelyn understood why. Samuel had disappeared. He had not been a thief. He had been protecting innocent settlers. The following morning, she and Daniel quietly traveled by wagon to the neighboring county where Judge Hale still served. After reading the journal, the elderly judge immediately recognized the evidence and contacted federal investigators. Within days, officers arrived in Black Hollow. The secret records exposed years of fraud, illegal land claims, and stolen fortunes. Several powerful officials, including the railroad inspector with the silver badge, were arrested before they could escape. Samuel Reed's good name was finally restored, and the town learned that he had been forced into hiding after narrowly escaping those who wanted the journal destroyed. Weeks later, Samuel himself returned under federal protection. He thanked Evelyn with tears in his eyes for finishing the work he had been unable to complete. Refusing to keep all the reward money offered for the recovered evidence, Evelyn accepted only enough to repair the telegraph office and transform it into both a working station and a welcoming home for travelers crossing the prairie. Daniel remained beside her through every long day of rebuilding. Their friendship slowly became something deeper, built not upon grand promises but quiet acts of kindness, shared laughter, and unwavering trust. On the first evening after the office officially reopened, Samuel tapped one final message across the restored telegraph line. The sound that had once filled the building with fear now carried hope instead. The message simply read, "Truth always finds its road." Daniel reached gently for Evelyn's hand, and she smiled as the familiar clicking echoed warmly through the room. She had entered the abandoned telegraph office with only $3, no family, and no future. She left the past behind with something far greater than wealth. She had found a purpose, a place to belong, and a love built on honesty, courage, and compassion. And in the quiet little telegraph office that nobody wanted, hope finally found its way home. Thank you for spending this journey with Nordic Love Stories. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Until next time, may kindness always guide your path.